Okay, welcome to this tutorial. This time I'll be working on my sister's friendship bracelet bag. Yeah, I know it's been a while, and I'll explain that a bit later on, but for now let's just kind of focus on this project. This is the third video in a series, and in the first one, which I have a link up here for you, I was showing you how to plan this whole thing out. And then after that, in the second video, I actually showed you how I made this piece right here, and for that there'll be a link right there. So now today what we're going to do is I have this kumi strap, I guess, that's hangs the bag around your neck, and I'm going to attach that onto this piece here. Now in order to do that, I'm going to pull out my dry erase board and try to explain how this actually has to work. So in order, we have a bracelet piece. This is the one with the loop here, like this, right? And I need to have where the strings are going to come to this one. So what I'll do is, from the strap itself, there's 24 strands or 12 strings, which is kind of like the regular bracelet size, where I have the 6 strings that come up and loop. But because this is a really long strap, there will be no loop. And I'm going to bring it out this way. And it's this very last string that will attach to this one, right? So it'll be like right here. And if I just did it one row and then tied the knot, there's not a whole lot holding that together. It's going to be difficult. So what I'll do is, well, I could have done this two ways. I could have just brought these down smaller and smaller and smaller to like a diamond like that, and that would work, and that would kind of give me the chevron type pattern. But instead I'm going to start it with a diamond, just leaving the last one off. So everything's going to come in sort of like this, and then the last string will be what ties into here and then comes back down. So that's the plan. This thing has been set aside for a while, so I don't even remember what the color combination was for this. So yeah, that's going to take me a minute, but let's get at it. Okay, so here we have it. There are 6 colors, and I'm going to break it up where I'm going to go the darkest of this purplish color, and then the darker sort of dusty rose, and see how that goes. So yeah, I think originally I had a big old plan for all of this, and for the life of me I have no idea what it was. This project started about 1.5 years ago. Well, year and I believe it's like 5 months, and it got shelved because my mother-in-law had a stroke, and trying to learn how to care for her and her husband became much bigger priority. So this got set aside, and that's that. So alright, as you can tell, I am doing like I always do and lining up the colors so I get a nice clean start. Just doing a single loop over it, just a simple like that. And I'm going the darkest purple to the darker, I think we're going to just call that a dusty rose or reddish color. And then for some reason these purples here seem to be all the same. There's 2 of them. I suspect I was probably maybe running out of purple but still wanted to do the project. I'm not really sure what the rationality was, or maybe I had a real specific pattern in mind. I honestly have no idea. So let that be a note. If you're going to do some big project, perhaps you jot a few notes down. Store them in your phone or on paper or something. Draw it out. Some crayons perhaps. But yeah, it would have made a big difference right this moment. But that's okay. There's going to be a lot of improvising here, including the fact that when I did this, when I kind of set everything aside, I ended up having all that cut string that was meant to be for the front of the bag. So if you'd watched that first video in the whole planning phase, the front of this bag was supposed to match the back of it. I know this because I just went and watched that video. So yeah, that's not going to happen now, because at some point I must have seen a bunch of purple string up there, enough to make 3 bracelets, and said, I could make 3 bracelets. And I did. And so they're no longer around any longer. And that means I'm going to have to get the 36 strings for that. So it is what it is. I have to live with the choices. And who knows, maybe it'll make this whole project more interesting. We'll see. So far you can see, kind of working at making this come out nice and clean, not bad. And I'm just taking this first row, this first purple, all the way down to the end. Now that's the color that's going to join everything else together, right? So if this is going onto the right side of the other piece, then it'll be this one here where it'll join, and then when I get around to making the front, it'll be the other side that will join. At least that's my intent. So when you join different patterns like this, one of the things you're going to have to keep in mind is the fact that out of the 2 patterns, like say this versus the other one, is which one is going to inherit the extra knot. Because when the 2 things join, that's exactly what you will have, is one more knot than what either the 2 patterns had beforehand. So my intention with this is I'm going to, after this diamond, pretty much make chevrons down the side in this kind of fun stripy pattern thing that it'll make. And that extra knot will come from this one, and thus those other patterns pretty much run their course. And when this one comes to the end, it'll bounce that other string back to the direction it's supposed to be going in. And then thus this, like say this one, as it bounces the other one back, it will come back and stay a part of this. So I think I'll go deeper into that when we get to that stage, but that's part of that. Mind you, if you're a beginner, if you're not used to like these knots and how I just made that corner over here or any of that, then honestly this video is not for you. This is for people like myself who got tired of making huge bracelets and wanted to come up with something different, more advanced, that would actually sell. Because at some point a 6 or 8 inch wide bracelet just doesn't have nearly the audience as say maybe a bag might. So there we go. We are on the way to the diamond. And this will just make it a little bit easier when I join those 2 pieces together. I'll have a whole little section that can join. Once this knot gets tied, it'll come all the way down to the bottom, and then I can work in the space next to it. So much easier than just starting off coming straight across one row at a time. It doesn't work out nearly as well. So if you are the beginner and you're looking at this and you're like, nope, not to fret. I am going to be making much more beginner orientated videos. I'm over here in Singapore, and all the threat of the coronavirus has everybody worried, and so the elderly activity center that my mother-in-law goes to, they haven't had any of us doing any of our activities. So I'm basically going and going to make some videos just for them, because I think they kind of miss it. You know, it used to be like a Tuesday thing, go in there and hang out with them and teach them. And now, since that's no longer a thing, I make some videos and they can show me their progress when I drop my mother-in-law off. And it'll still be like teaching them without, you know, quite as the hands-on experience or whatever. So you'll benefit from those videos as well. Everything from candy stripes through chevrons to the beginnings of, you know, simple patterns. Meanwhile, we're almost done with this diamond, and I will go ahead and make the other side, which is identical, and then come back, we'll put this thing together. No sense in making this video longer than it needs to be, right? So I like this contrast. These colors look good together. Obviously had good taste a year and a half ago, so yay. Alright. Couple more knots. And you can see that from this, right, any further knots and this becomes more like a bracelet. It won't just continue on as the fabric or whatever, because this would taper in. So this is literally as far as I can go without it becoming, you know, something completely different. Like I said, like a bracelet would come down. So we're going to stop here. I'll go do the other side, and then we'll work on the next part. Okay, so here we have the strap has been done. I've actually got both sides of it. You can see that they are all matchy. But we're going to try to just attach the one side here. See how that goes. The pattern I chose for the back flap is rather difficult in regards to the fact that it doesn't allow me. Normally I would have this come all the way down to a point, but I didn't do that because it's sort of, this pattern just doesn't lend itself well to that. So let's see what we can do and go from there, right? Now mind you, this was shelved quite some time ago, but fortunately I can look at the pattern and I can tell you how it's supposed to look. So that's how I'm basically able to just pick this up after so long. I can tell I've done a few bracelets of this design over here, so not a big deal. So this, where the strap is, those colors are just going to do a chevron from now on from this point. Again, I don't remember what the original idea here was, but just kind of go with what I have at the moment. So now I need to attach this next row. So This is this one. So if you're just starting out, I have to say this is really, again, this is a project that I have gone to some pretty big lengths to make it more complicated than it necessarily needed to be. So maybe start out with something just a bit easier. But if you're pretty advanced, you got some fancy pattern that you enjoy and you want to make it into something, by all means, that's the one to do. That was my thought here, pretty much, was these are some patterns I was really enjoying at that time, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to try to see what would come of them. And I'm not disappointed. By all means, I'm definitely thinking this turned out pretty cool. Now here's the thing. At this point, I have to keep track. So it's 4 of this color here, right? So the next color is of this one. You can see it from the other side, right? So is making sure that you kind of follow suit. You don't want this one coming over further. It'll kind of disrupt your pattern. Where I decided that first knot here was the this portion is coming over top of this one. Keep that consistent, and then you'll have a nice straight line coming down here. If you keep changing that up, it won't be a nice straight line. It'll distract from your pattern. So every time it's a choice between this side and this side, I'm choosing this one. Didn't have to go that way. I did it because this all over here already had a nice straight line going for itself, and I'm keeping that as consistent as it was. So, and I can't go any further with these until this part of the chevron comes in. So this can only come down and meet its other side once I have the front of the bag attached. So I can only come down a couple more rows anyways. Meanwhile, I'm going to have to go and come up with what is going to be the next of that part of the design. Again, since I used up the string that was meant to be the front, which would have matched this back piece, I have to go see what colors I have, come up with the, 36 strands, and make it in such a way that it looks like it belongs to this bag. So that's what the next video will be. I hope everybody is wishing me luck with that, because I have no idea how I'm going to pull that one off yet. But of course I will. So it's be exciting. I'm not sure how quickly I'll be able to get to it though. It seems that every time I've tried to sit down to do this video, something has come up. So I don't want to give promises. Just things with the parents aren't going so well right now. Nothing I can do about that though. Alzheimer's and dementia is not easy. So you can see this is 3 and the 4th one. So that is the end of this side. This is getting kind of pulled over. I need to adjust a little bit. Alright. And that's going to happen when you're trying to join things. You're going to have to just try to get it to line up straight. Otherwise, it can start to look a bit distorted. Alright. And as you can see, I used the left and then right knot here, and that was so that way it bounces the strings of this back into this side and puts the string over here on track to be where it's supposed to be. So essentially now we are pretty well attached. I could leave it at this point. Kind of want to get a little bit further though, I think. Let's see if I can figure out what's going on over here. I believe it is this way. Yeah, one. Again, it's I don't have this pattern on paper. I have no idea. It's a matter of if you make stuff, you design your own stuff long enough, you can look at something and figure out what it's supposed to be. I could see that the line here meant that this bit overrides this one. That's why that one's so skinny. Obviously that's correct because the line is still consistent. This is why I want to teach everybody what I know. I know that there's a lot of people out there who are following patterns and they don't understand how the pattern worked, and if you follow it in a way that the creator of that pattern didn't really kind of lay it out that way, you might not get the gist of what their intent was. Like with this, right? This is basically two separate rows that kind of keep repeating themselves and gives you this effect. But if you went just one knot at a time and you're coming across this way as you're just doing one knot at a time, it would be a whole lot more difficult. And you can see as I come down here like it's a candy stripe, it's not so bad. So again, it's just about figuring out how the pattern is supposed to go. It'll make it a whole lot easier on you. Alright. Alright. Now at this point I think I will go and attach the other side and try to bring that one down a bit, and then I will show you what I've done and basically sign off from that point. So because I think at this point there's not a lot I can show you as far as like what the patterns were or anything like that. Again, this was from 1.5 years ago. I don't think I actually wrote any of that stuff down. I could maybe draw it out again, but I think we're best to just examine the principles of how this was set up. Yes, this pattern was pretty neat, but you could literally make it any pattern. You don't even have to have it as though it's 3 bracelets going across the front of it. That was just me trying to do something perhaps more complicated than it needed to be, but again, this is for my sister. I want it to be special. So, alright, there we go. That looks nice. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, so kind of embarrassed I didn't actually just leave that recording. It didn't take very long at all. But this is about as far as I'm going to go before I actually take and put on the front. You can see I've kept the lines here. I've attached these. These ones always are taking over this, when it comes to, is it this one or this one, it's always these. So hopefully that makes some sense to you if you're trying this yourself. There will be another bag video here coming up shortly. I have intentions of making one that's nowhere near this complicated, kind of being able to start from the beginning again. I just kind of wanted to finish up this loose end. There was requests for it, and I kind of wanted to honor the fact that I said I would do that. So that said, I have a question for my next one. So when these two roll around, I still have the whole other side. And my question to you guys is, should I go completely overcomplicated and make it where I have to share the pattern with you guys so you can understand what it is? Or do I keep it simple so that way you guys could kind of follow along and make it easier for both me and potentially if you wanted to try it for yourself? So that's the question. Do I go really complicated and really kind of overthink the thing, or just keep it simple? So I'm going to leave that to you guys, and we'll just go from there. So alright, basically until next time, don't get your strings in a bunch.